People get ready, there's a train a-comin'. Don't need no ticket, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel hummin'. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. People get ready, there's a train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, so go ahead and board 'em. There's hope for all among us who love the most. Ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner. There's no hiding place from the kingdom's throne. People get ready, there's a train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, so go ahead and board 'em. There's hope for all among us who love the most.
Good morning, one and all, and welcome to our worship service at the First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. Here we gather, nurturing our connections, seeking inspiration, and embracing change. My name is Sue Anki, and I'm the Celebration Associate this morning. Thank you very much for joining us, those who are here in person and those watching online. It feels really good to be together today. We have a new coding system that we're going to use in this building. There are stickers on the welcome table, and they each mean something. The red stickers mean if you want to keep 6 feet away from people, put that on your tag. If you're okay with being a little closer and having conversation, put on a yellow sticker. And green if you're okay with handshaking or hugging. And you can feel free to change that anytime you feel like your comfort levels changed. Please check our website for more information about how to create connections. If you'd like to receive an email about the updates of what's going on, please send a request to office@uuithaca.org. Newcomers are especially invited to visit our website and complete a newcomer form on the homepage. Our service this morning is being live streamed from our sanctuary in downtown Ithaca and will be available for later viewing as well as on our YouTube channel. And now a message from the Stewardship Team.
Good morning. My name is Matt Hare, and I don't have a purple hat today, simply because I'm absent-minded. But there's little doubt why I'm here. I'm here today with a few messages about cherishing our past and building tomorrow together, our stewardship campaign to get pledges for next year's funds. Can I see a show of hands from those of you who are here who have pledged? I'm seeing a lot of hands here in the sanctuary, which means that what I have to say today is less to this in-person crowd and more to you, those of you watching on YouTube. Even though you're probably reading the New York Times right now and you may not get to viewing this until later today or later this week, this is for you. Part of this year's theme is Cherishing Our Past. And when I look back at the history of giving in this church, I'm impressed that in many of the 20 teens, we had a 50 to 60% rate of pledges showing an increase from the previous year. That percentage got as high as 71% in 2018. So what kind of showing do we have this year for building tomorrow together? Well, a big thanks to the 56 early bird households represented by paper cutout people on our board there who have already sent in their pledges to give us great momentum. Not only that, but a whopping 71% of those pledges included an increase relative to last year. More than any other number that I have to report to you today, I think this statistic shows a positive, can-do attitude about what is possible in this congregation and reflects the generous giving that is necessary to align our resources with our mission. The total pledged dollars now sum to $111,000, a great start, and a third of the way if we use last year's goal of $330,000 as a benchmark. But we have a long way to go, and we really need to do better than last year. We want to come out of this pandemic strong, and we want to show unanimous solidarity with our mission by having everyone pledge something. If we search for a minister this year, one of the very meaningful statistics that candidates want to see is the proportion of member households pledging. What do you suppose that proportion is here at the First Unitarian Society of Ithaca? We have a lot of active non-member friends who give generously, but the signed the book members, 287 at current count, what proportion do you think pledges? At a recent meeting of stewardship chairs from many UU congregations, I was hearing that 100% participation is not unusual. For us, in the recent past, it has been between 60 to 70%. I know we can do better than that. We have to do better than that to fulfill our mission. Yes, my message is try to be as generous as you can, but even more important is pledge something to show your support for our beloved community. You can use the pledge card that came in the mail last week. You can click on the donate button on our FUSIT website. You can call Michelle in the office, although not today, she's snowbound. Let me end on a less preachy and warmly optimistic high note with two small numbers that have big meaning. We've had 2 new pledgers, welcome, and 2 returning pledgers that did not pledge last year, welcome home. Last year was tough in many ways, and this pledge campaign is one opportunity that we have to show that we are resilient, we are resourceful, and we are ready to build tomorrow together. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Don and Sue Rakow to come up and light the chalice. You'll find the reading in your order of service. We light this chalice with the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker this morning. Many of you may recognize the lovely Emily Hopkins, as she's filled many roles here at FUSIT, including helping with the service auction. She just recently started working at Hospicare as the Outreach and Development Manager, and I know she'll do great. I've sung tenor in choir with Emily's husband, Marshall, and their child, Mary. And Marshall shared a song already, and he has another one he'll be sharing with us. And there's more in the order of service about Emily. Let us welcome them this morning.
Hi, it's great to be here with you today, and an honor. The opening words are one of my favorite poems. Some of you may have gotten it with your order of service. It's by William Stafford, and it's called Assurance. And I'll read it now. You can read along if you'd like. Assurance. You will never be alone. You hear so deep a sound when autumn comes. Yellow pulls across the hills and thrums, or the silence after lightning before it says its names, and then the clouds' wide-mouthed apologies. You were aimed from birth. You will never be alone. Rain will come, a gutter filled, an Amazon, long aisles. You never heard so deep a sound, moss on rock and years. You turn your head, that's what the silence meant. You are not alone. The whole wide world pours down.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our first hymn, number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Good morning, friends. I missed you last week, and I'm so grateful to be back here with you this morning. This month, we're going to be exploring the idea of renewing faith. The word renew means to return to something again. And when we talk about the word faith, which means to believe or have trust, we often use it here to mean our belief in this community and our connection to one another. So this month, we're going to focus on returning again to our belief in the importance of this community and being together and supporting one another, or renewing our faith. Let's take a look in the Wonder Box today. I have a rainbow. I found this upstairs in the hallway. It was made by one of our children pre-pandemic. Did you know that the rainbow is a part of a story from the Bible? Maybe you've heard of Noah's Ark, and it's a flood story from the Jewish scriptures, also known as the Old Testament. In the story, there's a terrible flood that covers the earth, and at the end of the story, God makes a covenant with Noah and all the people of the earth. And God says, I'll make a deal with you, a promise, a covenant. My covenant is with all of the beings of the earth, not just the people. You go forth and populate the earth and fill it again with all of your kind, and I promise to never flood the earth again. And as a sign of my covenant with you, I will put a rainbow in the clouds. And every time you see a rainbow, it will remind you of our covenant to create and preserve life. Now, we have rainbows in our church, and they are a symbol of a covenant or promise too. Our rainbow signs at church are a promise that no matter who you are or who you love, we accept and love you, and you are welcome here. The rainbow is a message, especially for those of us who are LGBTQ+, and that stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning or queer. The plus represents those who are part of that community, but for whom the LGBTQ does not accurately capture or reflect their identity. The message lets us know that all are welcomed at our church. Our faith tells us to celebrate love in all its forms and to respect one another. The rainbow is one of the symbols we use to announce that we are committed to being a welcoming community. We call the promises that we make in our faith a covenant, just like in the Noah's Ark Bible story. This community has a covenant that we created together. And today, after services, we will start our own just for the young people who are part of our religious exploration program, because we're going to meet up in the arch room for the first time in person in 2 years. I know. So a covenant is a sacred promise to each other about how we are going to be with one another. They can also be made between people and families, by students and teachers in school. They can be made in religions, too. Our Unitarian Universalist principles are also a covenant. A covenant is a way of saying that we trust each other and to make promises to each other. It's a way of renewing faith. I'm going to share with you now a quick story about another UU congregation and a treehouse that they built. It's called The Treehouse Rules by Lynn, Unger, and Michelle Richards. The treehouse was built on the congregation's grounds over 3 Saturdays in September, using donated lumber and the donated labor of the families who attended the church and other adults who wanted to help with the project. Even the kids got involved, especially those aged 10 and up, by pitching in and helping in any way they could during the construction. And it was a fantastic place to be once it was completed, with a window that faced the nearby playground, a rope ladder to climb up, and a slide to exit. While everyone was happy that the treehouse was there, after all the planning and construction, it soon became a problem. When too many kids wanted to enjoy it at once, their different ideas about how to use it came into conflict with each other. The younger kids got a thrill out of running races through it, hurriedly climbing up the rope ladder, rushing through the treehouse to race down the slide over and over again, one after the other. But the older kids wanted to hang out in the treehouse after worship service, playing games like jacks and cards. One day, a second grader was racing by and interrupted the fifth graders' games of cards for the 3rd time. That was it. A fight broke out with name-calling, pushing, and some tears. Some adults demanded that the treehouse be off limits until the children learned to cooperate with each other. Other adults protested that their children had special rights to use the treehouse because they had helped to build it. The Religious Education Committee had meetings about a policy for use of the treehouse. They were getting ready to report to the congregation's board of directors with their findings. Meanwhile, the minister considered bringing in a consultant from the district to address the conflict, which had now spread to the entire congregation. I hear laughing because it sounds a little familiar. But while the adults were arguing, holding meetings, and creating policies, something happened. The children who had been temporarily banned from the treehouse started talking to each other and looking for ways that they could all use this space together. A few of them remembered the covenants that they had created in their RE programs the year before. They suggested a covenant could be created for how the children could use the treehouse. So they sat down and they talked about ways that they could all enjoy their treehouse the way they wanted to. They came up with a covenant, which laid out how they would be in the treehouse and how they would respect others who were also using the space. Just as the adults were starting a congregational meeting to adopt a policy for use of the treehouse, some church leaders looked out the window. They saw the children cooperating with each other and using the treehouse without conflict. A teenager was dispatched to the treehouse to discover what rules the participants had come up with, and when she reported back to the adults at the congregational meeting, the announcement came that the participants had created a covenant with one another. The adults were humbled. Some sheepishly glanced at their church covenant, framed on the wall, hanging there and mostly forgotten. The congregational meeting was adjourned. The adults went their own way, reminded of the power of covenants, working together to find a solution and the commitment of people in right relationship with one another, all because of the treehouse rules. Let us remember our own covenant and the promises we make to one another as we travel on this journey together, finding ways to renew our faith. So whether you're sitting here in the pews or watching from home, I invite you to return again to this place where you are welcome and loved, where we strive to be in covenant with one another, and sometimes we fail, but we lift one another up and try again. Return to this place where you all belong.
In a spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to bear witness to some of the joys and sorrows of our community, to share those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. First, a wonderful joy. Longtime member Ruth Schwartz will celebrate her 100th birthday on March 21st of this year. She lives at Kendall and has recently moved into the skilled nursing section. Family are not able to be with her at this time, so cards and calls are welcome. Her address and phone number are in Breeze, and if you can't find it there, give Michelle in the office a call. And this from Therese O'Connor. Please keep her husband, Earl Rose, in your prayers. His sister, Claudia, died suddenly on March 4th from cardiac arrest. Our prayers go out. And this from Sue Ronke. Her mom, Dottie, has pneumonia, but is doing better, thankfully. Finally, let's continue to remember the people of Ukraine. Let's pray for hope in a world that seems mired in a quagmire of hopelessness. May the future be somehow brighter. For those we are holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, let us call these names out loud into this community, into this space of healing and hope right now. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us not forget to extend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, let our hands be outstretched in kindness, and let us keep showing up to our lives and to each other with an open heart, no matter what. Love and courage to us all. Amen.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to who you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and
Richard Swift, for John and Bill, for every gift lifted far before its will. Judy and Smith and Burnman too, I met the myth hanging heavy over you. I loved you long, you rose to go, and left these songs perfect angels in the snow. No more to stage, forget reserve, the type of sweet coronation you deserve. I'm going out for a weekend. I'm gonna borrow a Martin or Gibson, with either or and the hex for my bookends, and carry every text that you've given. I'm gonna swim for a week in warm American waters with dear friends, swimming high on a lead in Eden, following every lead you've been leaving. I'm overmatched, I'm half as wise. If this is flat, brother, I apologize. No one's alone, can leave the cave, and all you've learned won't be kept inside a grave. I'm gonna swim for a weekend, warm American waters with dear friends, just intending that I would delight them, following every lead you've been leaving. I dream, 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 dream. I'm gonna swim for a weekend, warm American waters with dear friends, just intending that I would delight them, swimming high on a lee in Eden. In your rarefied air I feel sun-blind, looking high at you there, high in my mind. The only way that I made it for a long time, but I'm loud and alive singing you all night.
Thank you so much, Marshall, for playing that. It's my favorite song and always makes me cry, and I think it's perfect for the theme today. Good morning. It is an honor to be invited to speak here to you this morning in the church my husband, Marshall, grew up in, and where I've been a visitor many times since we moved to Ithaca in 2007. This is a church, in fact, where I have served as co-chair of the annual service auction committee twice, once with my good friend Amelia Habik, and where my husband and child have sung in the choir, as Sue mentioned, under the direction of the great Jennifer Beerbon Lawrence, who used to run the choir, and of course, Unirondack, where approximately 100 members of this church used to go to spend a long weekend at the end of every summer, and where so many of us came to know and love each other even more from all of our time together there. So, as I said, it is my honor and pleasure to have this chance this Sunday to speak a bit about this month's theme, which is faith. In particular, I want to share some of the ideas around faith that I wrestle with and that I find comfort in. Faith as a mode of relationship to God and to our own condition. Faith as a positivity practice. Faith as a thing that is bequeathed to us by others. And faith as a powerful force in and of itself, a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. And one that is not just about belief, but about action, what we do and why. Because I'm not a regular speaker from the pulpit, nor any kind of authority, I thought I would talk to you about faith in the context of my own biography, as a way of introduction. Write what you know, they say. On March 1st, I started a new job as Outreach and Development Manager for Hospicare. And I see Betsy East here, who is a wonderful volunteer leader of that institution. It's a nonprofit medical institution that serves hundreds of individuals and families every year. It has a 6-bed residence for patients up on King Road, but the majority of the people it serves are living in their own homes or in nursing homes. Hospicare provides expert care to people to help them live their final months and days as fully and peacefully as possible. And they also offer palliative care and bereavement support services, including grief counseling, to anyone in our community who needs it. Because I'm new on the job, I've had the privilege to sit in on clinical care team meetings to learn about the important work that those nurses and social workers and spiritual care people do every day. At the beginning of their weekly Zoom meetings, the team lights a candle and spends 30 minutes or so remembering the patients who have died. These are patients that they have gotten to know well in some instances, whose hands they have held. One nurse this week remembered that one of her patients seemed to never have thought about mortality before he started dying. He was scared. He asked her, "What happens now?" He said, "What will happen when I die?" And she said to him, smiling, "We don't know. But whatever it is going to be wonderful." And that, she shared, satisfied him and helped him to be peaceful. Another nurse told me about picking up a shift at the Hospicare residence this year and visiting the room of a very elderly patient and deciding to give that woman a gentle massage, because the nurse is also a licensed massage therapist. The nurse carefully massaged lotion into the old woman's hands and feet. Afterwards, the woman, with tears in her eyes, told the nurse, "That is the most loving care I have received in a long time. Thank you." I had tears in my eyes, too, hearing the story, and I said to the nurse, "Oh, Hospicare is love." And she pointed her finger at me, her eyes sparkling, and she said, "Exactly right. Hospicare is love." So I'm very grateful to have my new job that will entail me raising money to support this love that we provide for ourselves and our neighbors when we are dying, which we will all do. I have faith in God because of evidence I have seen in my own life. When I pray, my prayers are answered. The very act of praying offers its own comfort and its own answers, even before any solution is delivered to me on a silver platter. When I look around at the way our lives are set up, that we are born into families, that we meet people to love, that death and loss and senseless tragedy even only prove to us how much we loved people and how much they are still with us, but also how they are utterly gone. It is in all of this that I see God, or at least a merciful benevolence baked into our condition. So that's a definition of faith that makes sense to me: loyalty and reliance on that hopeful idea of God and our lives. What faith cannot be, I think, is guilt trip-induced or incentivized belief in something highly unlikely. At least to my mind, that just doesn't sound like something an almighty God would set up for us. Believe in me or else. Take my word for it, and you'll get prizes later. Stand with me against powerful forces, and I'll make it up to you in a big, totally worth it way at a later date. That doesn't sound right. But maybe when it seems that someone is thinking of faith that way, as a far-fetched test that God is putting them through, we are misinterpreting that person and missing something key about their experience. When I was very little, my only experience with church came to me through my grandparents. On one side, the Richards side of my family, I used to be Emily Richards, by the way, you know that. On the Richards side of my family, there was Quaker meeting, where you would go sit silently in a room with Grandma Marion and Grandpa Jim, along with other elderly white people with good posture, and you would think about things, about the other people in the room, about your own posture, maybe about life, about silence, and how it isn't actually silent but filled with a steady hum, plus the shifting of people in seats and the creaking, the sighs, the stomach gurgles. And then one person would stand up to say something because the Holy Spirit had moved them to. And what they said would often be something about environmental protection, or war and peace, or a quoted snippet from a poem that was running through the speaker's mind and wouldn't let go. And every once in a while, someone would stand up and say something cryptic enough that it seemed like it maybe did come from another realm. On another side of my family, my mother's side, church in my childhood was the Episcopal Church, where we'd go to sit and listen to the priest intone things, and we would stand up and sit down, and stand up again and sit down, and stand and sing hard-to-sing songs from the hymnal and sit down, and then kneel to pray on those little flip-out kneeling ledges that some churches, this church does not have them, in front of you. It was always very satisfying when the priest said, "Peace be with you," and to us, and the whole congregation would say back, "And also with you." My great-grandmother, Ina Hilton Sanders, we called her Mima, was a Baptist who believed that playing cards was a sinful waste of time. She wore her snow-white hair like silk up in a pretty pompadour bun, and she read the Bible every day, and she prayed every night, long prayers that included mention of dozens of people by name. She would say, "I'm praying for you," and to people, and she meant it. I saw the list of names she kept on a paper tucked into her Bible. A few times, Mima took me with her to her Baptist church, and I would go to the basement for the Sunday school class with the other children, where I learned that if you want something, anything at all, you can just pray to God and He will give it to you. And I immediately prayed for candy to test the doctrine. Mima told me that it was important to love God more than you loved any human. And that always made me sad, thinking of her holding back her love for us a little bit, just to protect a jealous God's feelings. But she wasn't very good at holding back her love, because it was fierce and constant. But I first became really religious when I was a young teenager and attended an Episcopal church camp called Peterkin in the wildest, prettiest part of southern West Virginia. Camp Peterkin had a separate little camp called Hallelujah Hike, where 20 to 25 of us teens hiked up deep into the woods, up in the mountains, and pitched our tents and had church every day at an outdoor chapel where the pews were on tree stumps. And Hallelujah Hike was led by Father David Wood, who we called Papa Tree, and also a couple called Cora and Brian, and an ex-Army cook called CJ, who always wore a tight white t-shirt over his big belly, and Cora's 25-year-old son, who was a bit like the Marlboro Man, but with longer hair and more pocket knives. And all of the adults but Papa Tree smoked cigarettes, and they were stern on the outside, but sweet when you got to know them. And for 3 weeks, we hiked, we learned orienteering and other life survival skills, cooked over a fire, sheltered from the pouring rain under tarps strung between trees, sang religious songs every evening by a fire in a meadow under a dark sky and a billion stars. We campers got deep crushes on each other. We prayed very sincerely. We had silent retreats, and we decorated walking strips walking sticks, and we workshopped our feelings about God and faith and ourselves. We read the Bible, and in short, we blossomed together as lambs of God. I was baptized at that camp in a cold creek by Papa Tree, my arms crossed over my chest when he lowered me backwards into the waist-deep current. So yes, of course I hand myself over to the creator of me and this camp and all these other wonderful friends and this mountain and these woods. Of course I do. Because the world and other people are what show us God, and they are surely a part of our faith, whatever that faith is. When my father died this past summer of COVID, his 8 children, myself included, went to the Islamic funeral home and cemetery to lay him to rest. Afterwards, my most devoutly Muslim brother told me that he considered all 8 of us siblings to be Muslims, even me, because it was the faith of our Father, and his most valuable gift to us. I was touched by the comment, feeling that my little brother had called us family not only in blood but in spirit. It reminded me of the time one of my best friends, Sarah, said that I have a Jewish soul, possibly one of the sweetest and most welcoming things anyone has ever said to me. It's always people who connect us to a faith. We all have our pastors. Even if we go to a church with no pastor, like this one, or like every Quaker Friends meeting, or if we go to no house of worship of any kind. We all have people in our lives whose very words and presence, whose example, feel like a conduit to truth and to solace. That's what the song that Marshall agreed to sing to you today was about. It's about the people, that the songwriter, you could say more, but the songwriter is writing about people who have passed and imagining spending a day with them and swimming and the power of the memory of that love. The people who stick in your heart and are in a way the stepping stones that take you up the mountain to the mountaintop that gives you the view of creation. And then in turn, we have the opportunity in this life to be that for someone else, maybe for a whole bunch of people. Who are your pastors? And who are you a pastor for? One of my pastors is the Reverend Nathaniel Wright, pastor at Calvary Baptist Church a few blocks from here on Albany Street. Even though I don't consider myself a Baptist or even a Christian, sorry, Pastor Wright, if he gets wind of this, but his methodical and deeply relevant explications of Bible verses in his Sunday sermons and his teachings at Bible study on Wednesday nights, which is also online, show just how upright and hardworking and faithful he is to his job, to his congregation, and they make me feel like I have glimpsed God's love and know a bit more about how to access it. Prayer, contemplation, honesty. From other people, we learn a bit more about what God is like, I think. Hardworking, faithful, intelligent, universally applicable, always on the case, whatever that case at hand may happen to be. My grandfathers were also my pastors. Grandpa Jim, a physics professor, taught me how powerful it is to be quietly, humbly generous and good. He did good deeds left and right, but barely talked about them. It was at his funeral that we learned about a lot of the good deeds that he had done from people who came to pay their respects and told their stories. He'd lent people money. He opened a teen center with a bumper pool table and video games and a refrigerator full of healthy snacks. He was an early participant, my Grandpa Jim, in the Alternatives to Violence project, which goes into prisons and facilitates workshops where incarcerated people and non-incarcerated visitors explore the causes of violence and the solutions and alternatives to violence. And so he is the person who inspired me to follow in his footsteps with that program. My grandmothers were my pastors, my sisters, my aunts, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my friends, my husband and his patience and loyalty and love. Here's a weird one, a very tenuous link. Hannah Russell, the oldest sister of the boy I fell in love with in the Army, is one of my pastors. I consider her to be. I have only met her once in my life, but she's a writer. She's a Mormon woman who writes short essays about her faith, and they're like sermons, and I just love them. So I Facebook messengered, what's the verb? I Facebooked her to tell her that I was going to be speaking with you today about faith and to get any advice from her or just to tell her, and she wrote me back. So I'm just going to read the little paragraph that she wrote me back. She said, "The world is on fire. I think we can all agree on that. I think right now, love demands of each of us that we have the courage to mourn with them that mourn. The ability and choice to recognize others' grief and pain without negating, controlling, or correcting would be a lovely progression for our society. There's not really a disconnect between happiness and mourning," she wrote, "with them that mourn. Khalil Gibran said, 'Your joy is your sorrow unmasked.' If we believe that God is love, then sitting with grief to be love is entering into God more than any action we could do. And what is joy if not the presence of God? It's avoiding pain and grief that makes it seem opposite. Sitting as love in dark places is hard because we do twist and turn away from the pain. But when we join God in loving and comforting, that is joy." Isn't that lovely? I also like to think of faith as a positivity practice. When terrible things happen or when I'm feeling low for no reason at all, it is good when I remember to have faith in positive outcomes, worthwhile lessons that difficulty can teach, any silver lining in a cloud. And if things are so dark that this idea feels flimsy or Pollyannish, I lean on faith to just carry me, if not to cheer me. And finally, I like to think of faith as a self-fulfilling prophecy, a set of instructions about what to do, sort of like a covenant that you've already signed. When you do the things faith suggests, pray, look for lessons in hardships, hold people's hands when they're dying, then certain things tend to happen as a consequence, things that reinforce and justify faith. When I pray, even if it's sort of a leap of faith, I find that a true thing to say, and there is a reply. When I have faith in the rightness of love, I am better able to forgive trespasses or to beg someone's pardon for something I've said in anger. And the consequences of that, of course, is mended relationships and fresh starts. So I thought I'd like to close my little talk to you today with a prayer. Could we pray together? We could be praying to Allah or Yahweh or whatever name that is closest to your heart, or if you don't really believe in God, you could just take a leap of faith and let there be a God for 1 minute. And if you are going to let there be a God for 1 minute, make that God be a good God, right? Dear God, hear our prayer. Dear God, let us feel your presence with us in this room, perhaps through the love and affection we have for each other, the care we feel for the person sitting next to us in the pews. Dear God, help us to feel peace. Dear God, fill our hearts with quiet peace so that we can be peaceful and kind to others, perhaps starting a chain reaction of peacefulness that starts in this sanctuary and extends far out into the world. Dear God, help us to learn to recognize our pastors, our teachers, and our guides in this life, and to learn from them. Help us to strive to be guides and helpers to others. Dear God, take away our bitterness, anger, resentments, and fears. Open our hearts to prepare them to be strong and kind. Dear God, fill us with gratitude and warm affection and humility and fierce loyalty to love. Fill us with faith. Build up our faith in goodness and love. Dear God, help us to be active in goodness and love through what we do and say. Amen.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. The giving information is shown in the order of service. For those watching remotely, the text number and website will appear on your screen during the offertory music and in the information below the live stream image on YouTube. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. So please take a moment and give through either the text option or the giving button on our church website. If you're attending in person and would rather write a check, you can place your offering in the box by the door when you exit the service. Please join me in saying the offertory words printed in your order of service. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn. This one's in your teal hymnal, number 1060, As We Sing of Hope and Joy.
As
Bodhisattvas dwell in the same ground as the rest of us, the world of birth and of death and permanence and self. But thanks to the practice of looking deeply into impermanence and non-self, they are in touch with the ultimate dimension, free from fears associated with ideas of existence and non-existence, one and many, coming and going, birth and death. In this freedom, they ride the waves of birth and death in perfect peace. They're able to remain in the world of the waves while abiding in the nature of water. We see that afflictions and enlightenment are one. When we have a deluded mind, we see only afflictions. But we have a true mind, the afflictions are no longer there. There is only enlightenment. We are no longer afraid of birth and death because we have touched the nature of interbeing. Those who work with the dying especially need to practice solidity and non-fear. Others need our stability and non-fear in order to be able to die peacefully. If we know how to touch the ultimate dimension of reality, if we know the reality of no birth and no death, we can transcend all fear. Then, when we are sitting with a dying person, we can be a source of comfort and inspiration to them. Non-fear is the greatest practice in Buddhism. To free ourselves from all fear, we must touch the ground of our being and train ourselves to look directly into the light of compassion.
As we extinguish the chalice, we gather the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action into our hearts and carry it forward into the dawning day. Go in peace.